Down all the latest here in Mets land. Tonight, that being August 4th, 2026, it's post-trade deadline time. So let's go ahead and let's deep dive the latest new Mets prospect rankings for their top dogs in the farm. In tonight's show, we're going to deep dive 10 to 15 plus prospects that the New York Mets currently have to offer. We're going to get into ultimately where those prospects stand and respective rankings from friends on the platform, from guys like Joe DeMayo. We'll also reference MLB.com and see what is the difference between the two. My respective opinion, who knows plenty on all these individual prospects, including quite a bit on the newcomers and guys like Jefferson Rojas and the diehard New York Mets fan, the New York native himself, and Mr. Sammy Stafura. We're going to break down all that you guys and gals need to know on the prospect front and what's going to be a really exciting deep dive of breakdown. And we're going to begin today's discussion by also getting into the latest Mets game and our post-game recap, as the Mets have taken down the Cleveland Guardians this evening by a final score of 6-2. So we'll begin the show by getting into this Mets game, how they fared, the pros, the cons, including a lot of the newcomers that are now on this Mets roster, specifically in what's a completely rebuilt bullpen after trading everyone and their mother. After we deep dive the ball game and get into all the key details for each and every one of you, we will do our complete deep dive on the prospect front. And if you're watching this on replay, you're not going to see the game recap, as I'm going to cut it out of the show after the fact, so that way you can only see the prospect breakdown, because that's what I want my replay viewers to focus on most. That is the heavy emphasis of tonight's discussion. So first and foremost, thank you guys all so much for chiming in. I greatly appreciate it. Hit that like and subscribe button on your way, and let's get a temperature check to see how are we feeling, Mets fans, after what was nothing short of a selling spree there that we saw for the Amazons. We had a tremendous show yesterday. I want to thank you all so much to everyone that chimed in, all 20,000+ of you that chimed into our breakdown yesterday here on the platform, live from Manhattan and the New York Post Sports studios there. Myself, Dexter Henry, and Ryan Sampson had a great time breaking down the Mets news, as well as all the moves that are happening across Major League Baseball. In case you guys did not see my deep dives on the Clay Holmes and Tyrone Taylor trade, as well as Luke Weaver, and all the other moves the Mets have done over the past 40 to 72 hours, check out our respective shows on the platform after you find yourself watching this one. But everybody, hit those buttons on your way, and we got a lot of breakdown in this one. As I stated, a lot to say on the front of these prospects. I've got to shout out PrizePicks, because while the Mets have not been consistently stepping up this year, PrizePicks has for each and every one of you as the best app in the game for daily projections and labs. Don't wait, don't hesitate, don't look any farther. They have you covered right here, right now. Whether you want to build an MLB-related play, maybe a little AJ Ewing, more on hits, maybe a little less on total outs with someone like, I don't know, let's go with a Kodai Senga up until now, him being moved into the Mets bullpen, specifically in the one-inning role, which I have a lot to say about later in this discussion for people that watch it live as it first happens. When it comes to building MLB, NFL, NBA, or all things sports plays, look no further. Download the PrizePicks app now. Not only are they officially live in the state of New York, but they have an awesome promo for each and every one of you. If you download the app, play $5 and win, you automatically get $150 after the fact. Again, that is downloading the app, use our promo code HMA, play $5 and win, and automatically get $150 afterwards. Shout out PrizePicks. It's going to be right, and apologies in advance as I hop back to my main slide here if my intro plays for a quick second. Okay, we're good. Awesome. Not going to complain there. Also, shout out to SeatGeek, everybody, for all things ticketing. Whether you want them for Mets tickets this year, as they're the official marketplace of the New York Mets, or anything in here in the ticketing space, our great friends at SeatGeek have you covered. Don't wait, don't hesitate. Download the app, link down below, just like PrizePicks, and this time use our promo code WARDY10. That is WARDY10 for 10% off your next ticket purchase. Thank you guys kindly, and now let's get into it. Get into this, because the last time that we did a prospect breakdown to this extent was prior to the season beginning, and how the Mets top 5 shaped up to be then is very different than how it's shaping up to be now. Not only the top 5, but really the entire top 10. There's many names in here that were not in here a couple months ago. There's some newcomers because they came from other organizations, and there's guys that have also skyrocketed the Mets farm to their credit as now why they found themselves in this conversation. You also will notice that there will probably be one or two of these guys are out of this list sooner than later, because they will be promoted or from, in general, this exact spot, because they will no longer be prospects. Most notably, Zach Thornton, who our friend Joe DeMayo has ranked number 9 in his top 10 prospects that we'll talk about in a second. as well as Jonathan, who is expected to be called up by the New York Mets at potentially some point in the next calendar week, week and a half. Don't expect him necessarily be this week, as he's slotted to pitch later on this week after having his start just moved a couple days. But nonetheless, let's get into these prospect rankings, everybody. And we're going to go 10 to 1 with our guy Joe's breakdown here. And then we're going to talk about, again, how this compares and contrasts and everything else in between. So starting off at number 10 on the ranking, according to Joe DeMayo of SNY, Mets top prospects, we have Carson Wiggins. Now, for those that are unaware as to who Carson Wiggins is one of the newcomers that the Mets just drafted that we saw this past draft, which is very exciting because Wiggins is one of these guys where if everything works out for him, this could be a force, to say the least, for the New York Mets and what they're going to be getting in the flamethrower. And that's the emphasis here, everybody, because we have to talk about what the Mets are going to be getting. This is a kid who's going to bring a lot to the table, okay? So for those that are unaware, Carson was just drafted by the New York Mets literally just a couple weeks ago, and this is a kid who has an absolutely electric arm, okay? He agreed with the Mets on the slot bonus of roughly $3.5 million. It was just under that we saw for the full slot value for the 27th overall draft pick that we saw at the draft. And Wiggins, who's 21 years of age, is coming out of the University of Arkansas that we saw and currently ranked as MLB Pipeline's number 88th draft prospect. Wiggins did tear his UCL his freshman year of Arkansas last spring. So when we look at someone like him, he's not someone that has been throwing overly a lot when it comes to in-season work, but that's okay because you're focusing on the stuff and how he was prior to the draft where he was looking really good, touching upper 90s on the gun. So Wiggins is someone that's fully expected to have an impact on the New York Mets and their farm ASAP. He's a 6'5", towering 215-pounder, and like I said, throws absolute gas, okay? This kid's going to be throwing, again, upper 90s, can touch 100 on the gun, and he also is one of these guys, too, that really just brings a lot to the table to be excited about. Now, the great question with someone like Wiggins is two things. It's going to be one, commanding the strike zone, and two, the multi-pitch mix. Is he going to be able to build a sustainable arsenal as something that could actually be impactful at the major league level as a starter, or is he going to find himself as a better reliever profile as his progression goes on? You know, let's also not forget that he is the brother of Cubs coveted prospect, who I like quite a bit as well, and Jackson Wiggins, you know, and like Jackson, Carson also has the changeup and the slider that sits in the mid to upper 80s. So you got the slide piece, the changeup, and the flame-throwing heater. That's great, especially changeups to get guys out of college that have some form of feel on their changeup, if at all, is awesome to see. For the New York Mets, I don't think it's at all a terrible pick to have him in your top 10. I think you can make a rightful argument as to why he should be in the top 10, because I think the Mets do have enough talents where you could maybe have him more in your top 15 than as a firm. He's got to be locked in the top 10. But I understand Joe's thought process behind this. Wiggins was one of the most coveted players that the Mets drafted this year, so it makes plenty of sense, and I'm excited to see what he's going to be able to do in his first year of pro ball at the major league level for 2027. Now, as we go on to number 9 on our list, I really don't need to talk about this long because you guys have been following along. Zach Thornton has been awesome, and Zach Thornton is not going to be in the Mets farm for too much longer, if you ask me. Pardon me, let me clarify. Not in these rankings for much longer. It's really just until he's no longer eligible as being a prospect. But Thornton's going to be a mainstay in the Mets rotation for the rest of the year and hopefully for years to come, because Zach Thornton, if you guys don't know, has been absolutely awesome for the New York Mets. I know he didn't have his sharpest outing the last time he was out there, but it doesn't matter. I mean, he pounds the strike zone, the kid, and he's someone who looks like he might be the most polished lefty homegrown talent the Mets have had in quite a minute. You know, we think of John Neese, we think of Steven Matz, we think of David Pearson. All these guys had respective pros and cons to their game. At times more cons than pros. With Zach Thornton at the age of 24, he might be the best option yet for the Mets as a homegrown lefty fit. Now, he's had some luck on his side, especially because of the defense working well around him. But in 34 innings so far this year for Zach Thornton, he's pitched to a sub-3 ERA for the Mets at 2.88, a horrendous expected ERA of 4.85. So he's kind of doing his best David Pearson impression by having god-awful expected numbers, relying on the defense around him. But for Zach, it's far less about being reliant on ground balls consistently, as he's also reliant on those flyouts, in which the Mets defense has been great, from A.J. Ewing and Carson Bench to someone like most recently Luis Robert. a 3.8 FIP and a .64 now on the season. He has a 6.2 K per nine to a 2.6 walks per nine. Again, not a guy that's going to strike you out a whole lot, obviously, even though his strikeout numbers in the minors have been relatively steady, sitting around a 9 K per nine or so. He's not a flamethrower, so unless he's really dying those corners or taking advantage of his multi-pitch mix, when we get to the off-speed and breaking stuff, you're looking at Zach who's going to be more reliant on the defense around him to induce those outs. But the big thing about Zach Thornton, and the reason why I like him so much, and part of why maybe you Mets fans do as well, is because, again, he's so good at pounding the strike zone. This is someone who's going to pound the strike zone early and often and work quick counts. That's a clear standout with him that has me excited. 118, $5 holla. Do you know if the Mets will be penalized from any past free agent signings in next year's baseball draft? I do not know off the top of my head, my friend. It's going to go in hand with the luxury tax, obviously. So let me take a rain check on that and get back to you, because I don't want to speak on something that I don't know comfortably. I appreciate that, though. Nonetheless, everybody, Zach Thornton, if we really want to count, Zach Thornton, you could say he's the Mets' #1 prospect right now because he looks so good since getting the call. But I wouldn't even put him in these prospect conversations because he's going to grow out of it. I know why Joe did it, but that's kind of pointless to me. Jonathan makes more sense than Zach because Ton hasn't been kind of a mainstay in the rotation yet. Coming in at number 8 is someone who skyrocketed the Mets farm last year, was part of the Mets hitting lab, was so good for them after doing nothing prior, was not at all a coveted prospect until entering 2025. That's Jacob Reimer. The third base / DH profile, Reimer is someone who absolutely can tear the piss out of a baseball. And this year, after skyrocketing the farm a year ago, just has been the same guy because of injury mainly, and then having some slumps because of it. So for Reimer this season, as we take a look at Jacob and his game, what he offers for the New York Mets is someone who I really do believe can impact them as soon as, if not this season, then most certainly next year. But the great question again will be defense with someone like him and how ultimately his offense is able to play up at the major league level. Reimer last year broke out big time across 2 different levels from high to AA. Batted .282 with .379 on base, a .870 slug, .870 OPS in 122 games. That included 17 home runs, 77 RBIs, 58 walks to 112 strikeouts, and 15 stolen bases. This season, across 4 different levels because of obviously injury as well and rehabbing, currently in AA with the Rumble Ponies, batting .231 with a .355 on base and a .783 OPS. We're looking at 8 home runs, 25 RBIs, 36 walks to 63 strikeouts, and 13 stolen bases in a total of 59 games. So Reimer has been able to get a bit more back on track. The third base DH, first base profile. Reimer, you can I think make the argument that he's anywhere from, I would say, your top 7 to top 12 in your prospect ranking. MLB Pipeline, for example, currently has him as the 5th best prospect in the Mets farm, whereas Joe has him as the 8th. I understand both sides. If you're going a bit on recency bias, that's why you have more 8th. If you're going ahead and really looking at the hit tools, how much they adjusted for the better last year and are banking on that still, you go more top 5. Either way, Reimer, an enticing hitting prospect of a profile for the New York Mets and someone who will absolutely be competing to try to impact this club as soon as next season if he's not given at all a leash before this season's conclusion. Hard to see that given the fact that he's not in Syracuse yet, but we'll see how creative the Mets get with their call-ups down the stretch this year. But that's what you have there on Mr. Jacob Reimer. And if I did not state this already, Carson Wiggins, according to MLB.com, is not even currently ranked in the top 30 prospects for themselves. And I think that has a lot more to do with the fact that there's just different viewpoints on certain player profiles and others. That's why some of these rankings are going to look drastically different. And I favor a lot of what Joe's rankings are over MLB.com's because at the end of the day, MLB.com isn't as in-depth and engulfed with their Mets prospect coverage than a guy who literally makes a living solely focusing on Mets prospects every single day. So not a slight on those who work at MLB.com, but if I had to pick between MLB.com and someone who is on top of Mets prospects more than most, I'm going to favor that person. Kind of like how, again, I take my opinion with higher value than maybe other people in this space that talk about the club or, just have an opinion if I notice that they're not as locked in as I am, because I try to be as locked in, as tapped in the club as I am. So if someone's more casual or more fair weather, their opinion kind of reaches a moot point, where I really don't care for it because, again, it's not like I'm gaining anything from it. It's something that I don't already know. But nonetheless, that's what we have there. So now let's get on to our next one in this, everybody. And that's going to be Mr. WardyNYM. Asigan. Now, this is a fun one. Asigan. Wadi Asigan. There we go. Third time's a charm. Guys, Wadi has been literally tearing the cover off of baseballs lately. This kid has been awesome. For those that don't know the Wadi Asigan story, the Mets acquired him last minute in this past offseason, the IFA pool, after he was initially committed for years ago to the New York Yankees. He was one of, if not the most coveted prospect in this past year's class in the IFA. He says, no thank you, Yanks, after they parted ways with someone in their scouting department that he had a good relationship with that rubbed him and his family the wrong way. Mets get him for less money. The Texas Rangers swoop in last minute, throw him more money. He says, no thank you. I'm going to go to the New York Mets. Mets get Wadi. Love to see that. So, who the Mets get in Wadi? Let me enlighten you. Again, this kid is really, really exciting. So far this year, Wadi, that we've seen for the Mets in, playing, basically DSL right now. 283 with a 469 base, 1,000 OPS in 22 games, 3 home runs. I think he had his 4th today, if it's not updated yet. 9 RBIs, 18 walks, 24 strikeouts, and 6 stolen bases. And like I said, Wadi has been hitting the hell out of the baseball lately. Okay? He is not expected to hit the bigs anytime soon. He's only 16 years of age. We're talking about a 16-year-old right now. I know that's crazy. It really is. His ETA is until 2031, but a lot of excitement with him. He's 6 foot, 180 pounds. Again, bats from the left side, hitting big bombs, uber athletic talent. Scouts are unbelievably bullish on him that this is someone who can not only transition to the major league level well, but someone who could be in the bigs, hopefully by the time, again, he's in his late teens, early 20s. A shortstop prospect that's probably going to profile better at second and or third base. We'll see what the future holds for him. But nonetheless, he is so unbelievably exciting. And what he's been able to do lately has just been so sick to see. Again, if you guys have been following along with Wadi lately, he's just been tearing the cover off of baseballs. We do have Wadi right here as well that I can show you guys. This is a home run they literally hit earlier today. Let's go ahead and pull this up real quick, everybody. Just love to see it. Here, let me see if I can get the audio on it. Huh. Maybe there is an audio. Either way, it's not working the way I want it, but that's fine. Nonetheless, that's Wadi. That's the kid that you guys should be excited by. And yes, the Mets were able to pry him away from their crosstown rival, the New York Yankees, this past offseason and bring him in as part of their top 10 now. And I would easily go as far as to say that Wadi should not be where Joe currently has him ranked. Wadi, in my opinion, is already a top 5, if not our worst top 6 prospect for the New York Mets. There's already believed that he could be ahead of Elian Pena, even though I understand both sides. I think Pena has the right to be ahead of him right now, but Wadi, given his age, is more than likely going to leapfrog him over the next calendar year. As we continue on, breaking down these Mets prospects, everybody, let's go on from Wadi at 7 here to now Elian Pena at 6. And for those that don't know Elian Pena, he is the largest signing in Mets IFA history from a year ago that we saw at a $5 million slot bonus. Okay, a lot of money. He's currently ranked as the 4th best prospect in the Mets farm, according to MLB.com. As you guys can see, has dropped to 6 for Joe DeMayo's rankings. He had a 50 grade out of obviously being acquired by the Mets a year ago, and the 5'10", 180-pounder batting from the left side as well this season that we see in A-ball for the New York Mets. And mind you, he's in A-ball as an 18-year-old, okay? 262 average, 384 on base, but the power hasn't transitioned yet. 364. He raked with his power in the DSL League last year in 55 games with over 500 slug. So far, he's trying to get to the 400 slug level and go on from there. He's batting right around 250 on the season that we see with a total of 5 home runs, 36 RBIs, 55 walks, 79 strikeouts, and 26 stolen bags. Okay, the hype with Elian is that not only does he look like he could be the shortstop of the future for the New York Mets potentially, but he's someone that, again, also is expected to get to the bigs, hopefully within the next couple of years. Again, the fact that he's already hitting really solid in A-ball, he's had some ups and downs, but he has a right around 750 OPS, batting 260 as an 18-year-old in A-ball for the St. Lucie Mets. There's a reality that we are going to see him in high A with Brooklyn before the season ends or absolutely to begin next year. So that should have Mets fans very excited in what they're getting. Again, uber athletic player, just like Wandy. There's some similarities in their games in the sense of how they're projected to both get to the major league level at a relatively young age, but nonetheless, very, very happy with what the Mets are getting going there. What are we talking about in the chat? I'm seeing some comments in the chat that are just cracking me up. They're just so like irrelevant, I feel like. I don't know what's going on, but you guys are having fun, it seems. Nonetheless, we go on from talking about Ellie, and let's get on to now my favorite prospect to break down today, arguably, and that is number 5, Mitch Voigt. Okay? In case you guys and gals don't know, Mitch Voigt has been so unbelievably impressive for the New York Mets, guys. I mean, just please take a look at Mitch Voigt with me for a second. Please appreciate him in all his glory. Mitch Voigt has been literally so good since moving up to Double-A. It's not even funny. And Voigt is playing so well that this is a kid who's knocking on the door for the Mets next season already. That's how good we're looking.
2-1 pitch, and Voigt clobbers one to left. It sends Antico back at the track. It skips off the wall. Benson heads for third. Collins is going to give him the wave. Cut off from Perez. Throw home. Not in time. JT Benson under the tag. And man, Mitch Voigt delivers again.
So as you guys can see, Mitch Voigt has been looking good. He had a fantastic multi-game for the New York Mets today in Double-A, and you're going to see a trend of the Double-A Rumble Ponies kicking ass of their offense in the second half this year. They're looking really, really, really good. And expand more on this and going back to the rankings here from Joe DeMayo of SNY from the platform here. Mitch is someone who was drafted, as we know, last year by the New York Mets, the first draft pick under David Stearns in 2025, which was in the second round coming out of Michigan. Now, Voigt, people were very excited about him. Great multi-tool talent, someone who they really think transitionally when it comes to defense is going to be very smooth with. Offensively, we'll see how he adjusts to these professional levels. In A-ball last year, didn't hit all that great in his first 22 games. This year, though, completely different story, everybody, okay? Let me just enlighten you. In 7 games so far in Double-A, in 7 games, Mitch Voigt is batting .538 with a 1,500 OPS in 7 games. And that includes 1 home run and 7 RBIs, okay? So far this season, in 83 games total, from High A Brooklyn to Double-A Rumble Ponies in Binghamton. He's batting .266 with 370 on base, a .442 slug for the shortstop second base profile, and an .812 OPS. In 83 games, he has a total of 12 home runs, 48 RBIs, 42 walks, 73 strikeouts, and a whopping 40 stolen bases. Another absolute speed demon that the Mets have as an infield prospect. And Mitch Voigt, like some of the other guys that we're talking about, absolutely knocking on the door to be in the major leagues as soon as next season, depending on what happens with Marcus Semien. Now, currently, his ETA is viewed as 2028, but Voigt is skyrocketing the way that he's playing in the second half. If he continues to play the way that he is, and if Mitch Voigt kicks absolute ass for the entire month in Double-A for the Rumble Ponies, don't be shocked when you see him move up and get a taste of Syracuse before the season ends. Don't be surprised by that whatsoever. We know how David Stearns has shown an ability to be actually proactive with promoting guys properly in the farm. We're going to continue to see that trend. And Voigt is another David Stearns guy. Great head on his shoulders. Has looked awesome for the New York Mets so far this year. Loving the hitting adjustments that the young right-handed bat is making. Defensively, he's a web gem, so you know you're going to be more than fine there in the infield. Can play various positions in the infield. The Mets have a good thing going here with their infield prospects that they're building, and Mitch Voigt is absolutely climbing that ladder and climbing it fast to become one of the most coveted prospects in the farm. I think Mitch Voigt at 5 is absolutely where he should be. You could even argue a little bit higher with the way that he's playing. But for right now, I think top 5 is very justified for Mitch Voigt. He's currently ranked 6th, according to MLB.com. Now, into the top 4, everybody. And now we have Jonathan. Ton is currently ranked as the second best prospect still, according to MLB.com. He's dropped a little bit farther. I agree with dropping him a little bit farther, but I would put him 3rd. I wouldn't put him all the way at 4 here, just because I think Ton's inconsistencies has one indirect hand with just some growing pains this year as getting more acclimated to Syracuse, as well as adding to the arsenal, adding that cutter, which was not a thing a year ago to the same degree, okay? Ton last year was unbelievably dominant, leading to his major league debut for the New York Mets after he pitched mainly this season in Double-A to like a 1 ERA. He led all of Double-A in strikeouts last year. I believe he led all minor leagues in strikeouts for the amount of games that he played. And a 6'1" right-hander, buck 80, Canadian, at the age of 23. Last season, again, we saw at the major league level, pitched a 7.7 ERA in 5 games. This year, pitched very solid. In the 10 innings that he's pitched at the major league level, Ton wasn't the problem. 3.6 ERA, and during that span, he allowed 1 home run and opponent batting average of 205. So Ton's absolutely a guy we're going to see at the major league level again. It will not be surprising. Don't be surprised when you see him called up in the next week and a half, easily. But last season, Ton pitched to a 1.43 ERA in 113 games between Double-A and then Triple-A for a cup of coffee, okay? Absolutely insane numbers, including a whopping .92 whip and 179 strikeouts in those innings. This year in Triple-A has a 5.2 ERA in 18 starts in 80 innings, and that includes an opponent batting average of 238, a whip of roughly 1.5, which is not good, obviously. And that's in 80 innings, allowing 15 home runs. He only gave up 2 home runs last year. So as you guys can see, he's been giving up the long ball like it's nobody's business in Syracuse, and that has been a big bugaboo. That and the walk rates, obviously, for Ton. So as we know, Jonah has been utilizing that multi-pitch mix. He's trying to get comfortability and obviously become a mainstay at the major league level. I know he'll get there. He's going to be more than fine. I'm really not worried about him at all. But I think it's fair to say that he's obviously not the most coveted or heralded prospect the Mets have at this very moment. Now, beyond him, we also have here now in our ranking at number 3. And this is the best story of the day. And that's obviously Sammy Stafura. For those that don't know, Sammy Stafura, New York native, who going back just a couple years ago was sliding in the Mets DMs in 2022, their actual account on Instagram, trying to show film as to why they should, scout him and want him. Stafura, awesome story. My friend Michael Marino, great friend of the platform, who was the first man to have the scoop on Sammy Stafura, that he was the one coming back in the Mets trade yesterday for Luke Weaver, and he actually got a chance to connect with Sammy in a way that no one else did, which was really cool. He was able to connect with Sammy personally one-on-one and relay the information that Sammy was going to be traded. And it was really cool because Michael, fantastic MLB reporter, independent reporter, obviously he's a Mets fan like us, so really cool to kind of connect with Sammy in that way. And Sammy gave a great quote to Michael this past day, which is that, I'm like the biggest Mets fan out there. I can't wait to bring my all to be a New York Met. Like, he's so pumped up to be a Met right now. I'm pumped up for him. Sammy has been a diehard Mets fan. He's lived and breathed with the club. He was attending Mets games as recent as 2024 in their OMG run. He wants to be here, and that's a great thing. And then you add in the fact that Sammy's actually good. He's very good, as a matter of fact, okay? Here's what you guys and gals need to know on Sammy. He's currently ranked as the 11th prospect of the Mets farm, according to MLB.com. However, for Joe DeMayo has him top 3. MLB.com is completely off base with this ranking, and they're not paying attention to what Sammy's doing this season, okay? That's why we're hyped by Sammy. Sammy's automatically a top 5 prospect for the Mets right now. 3, you could argue, might be a little high, but I think top 5 is absolutely a justifiable take. So far this year, Sammy, across 2 different levels, 276 batting average, 367 on base, shortstop prospect, who obviously can play off a short, but he has a great defensive game. Like, Sammy actually could be the Mets' future shortstop in their next couple seasons once Lindor's out of that position. 367 on base, 593 slug, a 960 OPS for Sammy this season, including 20 home runs, 54 RBIs, 30 walks, 78 strikeouts, 20 stolen bags. This is his offensive breakout. Sammy hasn't had more than 8 home runs in a single season in the minor leagues. And this year, he's batting 301 in high A, mind you, where he's at his latest level with 365 on base and over 1,000 OPS in those 47 games thus far. Now he's taking his talents, as we know, to the New York Mets and their organization. So excited for Sammy. He's going back to New York now that he's with the Cyclones. I'm so pumped up for him and his family. He is so happy to be here. Again, this is a former top draft pick as well in the second round back in 2023 by the Cincinnati Reds at a $2.5 million signing. Again, the kid is from Hudson Valley. Die-hard Mets fan, elite web gem of defense, fantastic base runner, coming into his own offensively, a kid who wants to be here. That should have you excited. He was a top 10 prospect in the Pirates organization, and now he's already top 5 in the Mets organization. Very happy with Sammy Stafura. Number 2, one of my favorite pitching prospects. That is Southpaw Jonathan Santucci, currently ranked as the 3rd overall prospect according to MLB.com and 2nd for Joe DeMayo. I think that's very valid. Again, Jonathan will be in the major leagues before the season wraps up, more than likely. He was recently called up to AAA over the past couple weeks as well. I thought he would actually make the bigs before Zach Thornton this year. That has not happened. But for Santucci, in 20 starts and 94 innings across both AA and AAA this year, has a 3.6 ERA. We're looking at opponent batting average of 217 with a 1.3 whip. 1.3 whip, 127 strikeouts to 50 walks, and just 4 home runs allowed this year. So love that from Jonathan. What I like about Santucci as well, everybody, is that you're having a lefty that can actually bring something here. You got a lefty at 6'2", and Jonathan, who sits 93 to 96 on the gun, and he can touch 97. So actually, a lefty that has velo greater than Manaea or Zach Thornton. That's what you love to see. He has a slider that sits, mid to high 80s there, 86 to 88 range. And you have the breaking ball as well. So love that you got the curveball. You got obviously the change. You got the slide piece. You got the heater. You got a lot to like with Jonathan Santucci, who continues to climb the ladder and the Mets farm. There's a great reality that Jonathan Santucci and Zach Thornton are 2 homegrown southpaw mainstays in this Mets rotation next season. I hope that is the case, because that means the Mets are doing something right with their player development. But yes, Santucci is someone who could be at the major league level as soon as this season. So don't be surprised should you see it happen, just like Jonathan coming back to the bigs. And last but most certainly not least, the consensus #1 overall prospect, according to both MLB.com and Joe DeMayo, is Jefferson Rojas, the big piece that the Mets got in the trade for Clay Holmes and Tyrone Taylor. This is a pretty easy breakdown, everybody. Rojas, absolute demon, right-handed bat, 5'11", 150, 21 years of age. He's currently ranked in the top 70 in MLB's pipeline overall top 100 rankings. He was the 2nd best prospect in the Cubs organization, which automatically makes him the Mets' best prospect. Coming out of the DR, as we know, in 2022, signing out of the IFA pool, Rojas has been a demon in AA this year as a 21-year-old, batting 270, 339 on base, 461 slug, 800 OPS, 91 games played, 15 home runs, 57 RBIs, 35 walks, 64 strikeouts to 17 stolen bags. Everybody, Jefferson Rojas is going to be the future Mets 3rd baseman as long as he develops properly. He's expected to transition better to 3rd than to stay at shortstop, and he is already someone who's knocking on the door to impact the Mets as soon as next season. There's a great reality that Jefferson Rojas is playing at the major league level within the next calendar year, and that means the Mets will have to get creative. Does that mean that Lindor's traded? Does that mean that Bo is parted with somehow? How would they go about this, obviously, because you got to make sure that these guys have room to play. You're going to part ways with the Mauricios or the Beatties of the world if you hadn't already, because you're not going to allow them to block the upside with someone like Jefferson Rojas here. So, according to Wolf Salmon of The Athletic, scouts have stated that the comp for Jefferson Rojas is no greater than Ketel Marte. So, if that does not get you excited, Mets fans, I don't know what will. Very happy to see what is going to continue to be, I think, a great trend upward of the Mets bolstering their farm thanks to the deadline. A bottom farm in baseball, one of the worst, now quickly entering that pack as more middle of the pack, and can go on from there. I think a player that was not ranked in this top 10 that I would actually kick Carson Wiggins out of for, if not, I won't do it to Jacob Reimer, but I'll do it to Carson Wiggins. Zach Thornton should be out of it. It is Emilian, I'm going to butcher it right now, Emilian Petrie. Guys, Petrie made his Mets debut tonight in AA, multi-hit game. The kid has been a stud. In case you guys do not know Emilian Petrie, let me enlighten you. He's currently ranked, according to MLB.com, as the Mets' 17th ranked prospect. Aiden Smith is at 14th. I would flip them easily. I think Petrie is going to be the best of the group there. I stand by that right now. This kid has been insane. 3 different levels this year, from high A all the way to AA, and he's gone better. 310 with a 439 on base, 448 slug, roughly 900 OPS this season, 5 home runs, 46 RBIs, 70 walks, 40 strikeouts, 32 stolen bases. He's got the A.J. Ewing approach, guys. He cut his strikeout rate in over half. Last year, he had 107 strikeouts in just 20 to 30 games more. He's got 40 strikeouts this year to 32 stolen bases. A clear multi-tool talent, a guy that hasn't gotten to the power yet for home runs, but that's okay. Petrie looks like someone that could be probably more your prototypical 10 home run guy at the major league level, but Another web gem defensively at second base, and someone who's going to hit for ridiculously high contact and grinding out at bats. This is another kid who, again, when we think of guys that can impact the Mets sooner or later, add Petrie right in that conversation with Jefferson Rojas and Mitch Voit as all players that'll be knocking on the door to impact the Mets as soon as next season. One player that was not in this top 10 that you can make somewhat of an argument for, as well as Chris Suero, who hasn't hit well for contact, but has hit great for power all year long and leadoff that we have seen in Double-A from the Rumble Ponies. Suero plays catcher, outfield, first base. Love him a lot as well. He could be in that conversation. But nonetheless, Mets fans, I'm liking what I'm seeing. I like these rankings. I don't really disagree with them too much. Maybe one or two players I would maybe want in there over others. Besides that, though, it's really just subjective like anything else, obviously. So I'd love to know your thoughts in the comments to everyone that watches live, as well as to our replay viewers. Your biggest takeaway on the latest top prospect rankings for the New York Mets. How do you feel about these respective players, their respective ETAs? And all you got to know is a lot of these guys, again, could be impacting the Mets as soon as next season, even in a year where they're still trying to contend for playoffs. We'll see what that entails. We'll see what the rest of the season looks like. But nonetheless, thank you all so much for watching. Enjoy the rest of your night to evening, whenever you find yourself watching this. And as always, no matter what, let's go Mets.